We are happy and fortunate to welcome the one and only Rod Thornley to our very own podcast today, and you are soaking wet, Rod. Tell us why.
Yeah. Well, because it's August and it's Manchester, so obviously it's going to be raining in it. First day of the season, it's absolutely pouring down. I just got the tram in, and I got stuck in a flash flood. 10 minutes and just got soaked. Typical Manchester, really.
Not the best of starts for you personally, but how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Plodding on in life, having fun. But yeah, I'm good.
No pressure, Rod, but we are really looking forward to listen to some of your best stories, the ups and downs, the people you've met along the way, the trophies, and the most memorable moments during your time at the club. And now it's your time to shine. And why don't you take us back to when and where it all started at Manchester United for you also?
Yeah, okay. So this goes back long before I was working there. This goes back to the days when my brother was part of that famous class of '92. Because of that, we became good friends with the likes of, the Beckham, the Nevilles, Scholes, but Giggsy. We'd known Giggsy anyway through Salford Boys long before that. But I was over in Salford working as a lifeguard, and I got a phone call in 2000 when United moved into Carrington. Like, they needed a lifeguard. Would you want to come? So I was like, yeah, definitely. Let's have a bit of this. And I'd give up a 40-hour-a-week job to gamble on 10 hours a week. Hopefully something would have come of it. And something did. Within a couple of weeks, they'd sent me on a course down to in Cardiff for this massage course. And within a year, I was qualified and working with the first team every day. And the rest is history, shall we say. I got very lucky.
You've grown up as a United fan?
Yeah.
That must be special.
Yeah, well, where I'm from, I'm a Salford lad, and 95% of people in Salford when I was growing up were Man United fans. Yeah, it was special. Very special, yeah. To work in that dressing room for so many years and to be a massive, well, that's not a massive, a big part of it, and to have quite a big influence in there as well at times was enjoyable. Yeah, it was a dream come true, really.
Yeah.
I think the next step down from actually playing for him, I got lucky.
Yeah. So obviously there's been a lot of memorable moments for you personally, I guess. Which story or moment comes to mind immediately when we ask you to share a memorable moment?
I think one of the most memorable was when I was actually away with Gary Neville at the time on holiday, and I got a phone call, or Gary got a phone call from David Beckham. And it was the year after I'd started working at Carrington. And it was David Beckham saying, do you think Rod would be interested in doing the England job? And by hook or by crook, someone had left the England setup and they needed someone to replace him. And my name was thrown in. Obviously, Bex was captain at the time. And that'll always stick out in my mind. Because on that same week that I was there, that I remember the Man United physio ringing me as well and saying there'd been a problem with the guy that normally travels with the team everywhere, the massage guy, who wasn't actually qualified in massage. He was just been around the club for many, many years, and a lovely bloke. But he was pushing retirement. I think he'd got a bit of illness. And that same week, I'd been asked to do the England job. And my first ever pre-season tour, which was in the Far East, in Thailand and in Japan, and I think it was Japan as well. I can't remember where it exactly was, but yeah. And it was just all in 1 week, like my whole world sort of like blew up. Like, it was amazing, really. It was a good summer, a very good summer.
You spoke about having an influence in the dressing room, and I guess every United fan's dream is probably to be a part of that dressing room. We see some clips on social media, but can you try to explain how the atmosphere is inside the Manchester United dressing room? Or how it was back then?
Like every single dressing room all over the world, in most sports, there's camaraderie and there's fun, there's enjoyment, there's laughter. But there's times to be serious. But day to day, in that dressing room, lads would be lads every single day, and it wasn't always like serious. But once they went out onto the pitch, yeah, you had the job to do. That was your job. You couldn't mess about there. But once you were in the dressing room, lads for years and years and years were messing about and like practical jokes and things like that. It just happens as you'd expect in a lad's domain, in like a male environment. There was always the characters that would instill sort of like beliefs and this is how we should do things. This is the Man United way. You know, the Gary Nevilles, the Roy Keanes. I know you can't be late, you should be on time, blah, 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 blah. Them sort of things. Be professional. When you're on the pitch, you train like you play. That was always a big thing at Man United. You trained as you played. And I think you found that a lot when players would come to the England setup, and there'd be a big contingent of Man United players in that England setup, and they'd see how Man United players trained every day, and they were, from what I remember, and especially in the early 2000s, the Tottenham players, the Chelsea players, it seemed like their intensity at training was nowhere near the levels of a Man United player. So that sort of like helped the England setup improve as well at the time, you know. But the Man United way was, you know, you train hard, you play hard, but behind the scenes they were a good team, and they were, for a long time, they were definitely a togetherness and a good group of lads that enjoyed each other's company.
During your time at the club, there was obviously a lot of success, but also tough moments, I reckon. What was the lowest point during your time at the club?
I mean, good question.
Let's start there.
Yeah, lowest time at the club. I mean, it was tough when the gaffer left, and David Gill. And this is not in any disrespect to David Moyes, but you just saw a change in the club, not just the team, a change in the whole club and the ethos and the way the club worked. And the crazy thing is about that was I remember Gary Neville about 5 or 6 years earlier than this, pulling the team together and saying, right, listen lads, this club's going to change, and it's not going to be for the best, and we can fight it now or we leave it. It's on you. He said, I'm not going to be here because my contract's about to finish and they're not going to keep me on. He said, but I'll fight it for you now, because he was brilliant like that, Gary. Gary had the team's interest at heart all the time, and he would push and push and push for the team. And I remember him saying it like, it's the monster is growing, and I think he was talking about the marketing side of everything and the money side of everything and how they were going to make the money going forward, and it was going to be by using the players to make the money, by doing advert after advert after advert, or promotion after promotion. So and I remember the lads just going, oh Gaz, no, don't worry Gaz. But then you saw that change as soon as the gaffer went, as soon as Sir Alex went, as soon as David Gill went. You saw that change, and like you could see them like every week complaining about, oh God, we've got to do a TV advert, or we've got to do commercials, we've got to do this, and it was just like an ongoing thing. So that was going on behind the scenes, on top of the fact that we weren't the best team in the league anymore. Well, yes, we'd won the league previously, but we quite clearly weren't the best team in the league anymore. And make it worse, City were up and coming massively. And so would Liverpool as well. So it was becoming a really crap time. And then we struggled under every single manager then that came through the door. Listen, we won things, little bits here and there. We won the Europa League, which is a brilliant achievement by Jose. We won the FA Cup under Louis van Gaal, which is another great achievement. But we struggled, and it was tough because behind the scenes in a football club, and I'd imagine this is most football clubs, when things aren't going right, there's a massive blame game goes on. And players especially very rarely point their finger at themselves, and it's quite normally someone else's fault. You know, I've not got the right size shorts, or I didn't get the right massage, or you know what I mean, it's always someone else's fault. The food was wrong, and that was creeping in, and it was becoming very, very difficult. Do
you remember the moment when you received the message that the gaffer is leaving?
You know what happened? We came in work one morning, and as soon as I've got in work, I've just been told straight up to at the time at Carrington we had a players' lounge. All staff to the players' lounge now. So we went up and sat in the players' lounge, and it was literally like myself, all the other medics, it was the coaching staff, it was the kit staff, the chef, the people that generally were closest to the team. So I'd say there was about 20 people in the room, and we sat there and we're going, what's going on? And like, obviously there was people in the room that knew, just saying, we can't tell you. And we were waiting, and we're like, what is going on? Why are we sat here? And what we didn't realise at the time was Sir Alex was in the dressing room with the players, because they had to know first. And then he just came up to our room and just sat there in a I'd say 10 to 15 minutes of a conversation, not conversation, just talk to us all about this was it. He was definitely done this time. Put it down to the death of his wife's sister, and he wanted to spend more time with Kathy now, and unbelievable chat. Made us all feel special, made us all like know that we'd done a great job for him, and we had a place in his heart, and he was one of those things you never ever forget.
Yeah.
Never forget.
Did he have a personal message for you?
No, he didn't. Never really, no.
He made you feel special anyway, though.
Yeah, you know what, with Sir Alex, he never really, in fact, in 13 years I think I worked for him, he never really sat me down and said, you were brilliant there, or don't do that again. I'm not necessarily saying don't do that again. Yeah, I got told off a couple of times, but you would never really get called to his office to praise you or to dismiss you, basically.
But can you reveal some of his team building tricks, or perhaps club building tricks? We've seen some clips.
The one thing with Sir Alex was, and he was brilliant at this, and I know from personal experience, he would come up to me and say, "How's Liz? How's your mum?" You know, he knew my mum's name, and he'd say, "How is she? And how's your dad? Is he good? Is he still like headmaster?" Blah, blah. He wasn't by this time, but he knew everything about them, and that was just me. And I knew that every single member of staff, forget whether you travel with the first team, if you worked in closeness to the office staff that don't go with the first team, he knew everything about everyone, and he made it his business to, when he actually saw you and was in a good mood, obviously he needed to be in a good mood, but when he saw you, he had something to talk to you about, and he made you feel as though, God, he's interested in me, and that was a brilliant quality he had.
And as long as you didn't call him Fergie.
Yeah, well, yeah. You'd hear that all the time, honestly. I mean, the amount of meals we'd go to and someone would shout Fergie. You know, we'd be out and we'd be walking in and out of a restaurant and someone would shout, Fergie. And he'd just turn around and go, did I go to school with you? It's Sir Alex to you, you know. Well, that's what he was like. And I never called him Fergie, ever. I didn't want to ever risk that wrath. Funny, though.
Tell me the worst hairdryer treatment you've ever seen someone get, and have you ever got one myself?
I've had one myself, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Do you want to hear that one? I've told this one before, though. It was in New York, a pre-season tour, and the manager, we'd played in Chicago, we'd flown Saturday evening down into New York, and the manager had given the lads till Monday morning off, so they had all Saturday night and all Sunday. So I went about my business organising golf on the Sunday. We got that sorted. Did something Saturday night, and then Sunday night, the lads were like putting me under pressure to try and sort something, you know. And this is where I'm talking about influence before. Like, I've been in this dressing room now for the best part of 10 years. Yeah. So the lads knew that I could do things, and I was good at organising and stuff like that. So I had a couple of contacts in New York, and I ended up hiring a minibus, organising the golf, a rooftop bar afterwards, and then off into a nice restaurant that turned into a cabaret, and then off into town. And we had a great night. There was myself, and originally there was only 3 or 4 players, but when people started getting wind of it, in the end there was like 20 of us. It was amazing. And I was with a friend of mine who'd done all the organising, who knew people. He was living in New York at the time, and we had a full evening planned, everything all sorted. Thought nothing of it. Nothing went wrong. Everyone had a great night. Monday, got up, went to training. On the Monday night, the New York Times printed a story about Manchester United out in New York, in Manhattan, having a great night, and they printed a couple of pictures, and one of them was through the window of a restaurant. It had turned into something like a cabaret. Giggsy was dancing on a table, and there was a couple of girls knocking about, but it said a couple of girls got onto the team bus. Now, we didn't have a team bus. I had hired a minibus for us all to get on, and this article prints all this, and I think Sir Alex saw team bus and envisaged, you know, the big Man United tour bus that he thought that the lads had got girls on this bus. Now, he was fuming. So he pulls not a team meeting, but the senior players. What's going on here? Wow, who's got this sorted? But and I think that one of them stitched me up and pinned it on me. So the next morning, the Tuesday morning, I get Eric Steele, who was the goalkeeper coach, and he pulled me aside. He said, "Listen, Rod, Sir Alex is absolutely gunning for you. Just stay out of his way for a day." I'm like, oh my God, it's a sinking feeling. It's horrible. Because I thought, you know what, no one's going to be bothered, you know. But he was fuming, and it's only because he misinterpreted the fact that there was girls on the team bus, so that never happened, never ever happened. Anyway, I got through training, no problem. Come back to the hotel, got to mealtime, and I was a couple of minutes late. But it was always quite casual there. You could be anyway. I walked in the room. All the tables are full apart from one table. It's completely empty. So I grab my food and sit down at the table. And I'm looking round and I'm thinking, who's not here? Oh, there's one person not here. The only person not there is Sir Alex. I'm thinking, oh God, please don't come down for lunch. If he comes down for lunch now, there's only one place he can sit. Next person through the door, Sir Alex. I'm like, oh no. So he gets his food and he comes and sits right next to me. A big table like this. He comes and sits there. And he looks at me. He says, "You were out with the players last night." And not 2 nights ago. I went, "No, I wasn't, boss." Like blatantly lied, like, "I wasn't, boss." He said, "Yeah, you were." He said, "You shouldn't be out with the players." And then his voice just starts getting higher and higher, and he's swearing, and he's just looking at me. He says, "You're not an effing player. You're a member of staff. Don't you ever?" And just by now he's screaming and shouting at me, and the other tables are looking round, and I'm just going, "Oh no, killer, honestly." And he just had a massive go at me. And then we walked away, and I was like, the rest of the day I was like, I felt so low. I felt it was terrible. It was honestly a terrible feeling. I actually thought, well, they could sack me here. It could be they just want me out, because that's quite an easy way to get me out. But next morning woke up and got in the lift, came downstairs, doors open. Who's the first person right at my face? Sir Alex. And I just looked at him and straight away just went, "Morning, Roddy Doddy," and it was it, done. Yeah. Done. Man management, brilliant. And I just went, oh, thank God for that. So he told me off, and that's it. Yeah. Finished, done. And that was brilliant. Brilliant. Great man management. Probably the biggest snap I ever saw him do. And I was one of the only ones to see this as well, because it was from half time. He'd got in the dressing room, I was just behind him, and the first person through the door was Nanny. It was Rangers away, and Nanny had spent the whole of the first half diving about, rolling around, pretending to be injured when he wasn't. And obviously it's Rangers, that's Sir Alex's team. Yeah. He was fuming with Nanny, and by this time there's just him and Nanny, and he's right in his face, and he's screaming about, and he basically said to him, I'm not going to repeat the words exactly, but if you ever feign injury again on my pitch, I'll never play you ever again for Man United. Oh.
So he hated that.
Oh, I hated it. Yeah. Especially in that case, it was Champions League up at Ibrox. You know what I mean? It was a massive night, and I think we nicked it I think we got a 1-0 win. I think Wayne scored a penalty. Oh. That was a long time ago, that though.
So when I asked you if he had a kind of personal message for you, he didn't. But how was your personal relationship, if you had one?
With Sir Alex?
Yeah.
We were just, you know, you'd be on a bus together or on a train together or whatever, and I'd never sit with him, but we'd always be close by. And he was one of those. He would never call me aside and say, "I need to chat with you about something." Never. No. And I very rarely needed to speak to him about anything. I just got on with my job. He was just. You just knew if he needed you, he'd shout you for something. You know, he loved a quiz, and he loved knowledge. He loved to know things. You know, a good thing of Sir Alex was on a train journey down when we played, say, Chelsea on a Sunday. We'd travel down Saturday afternoon while all the scores were coming through for Saturday afternoon's games, and that was good because we'd all get involved in a little game of you know, how many goals are going to be in the last 20 minutes in the English leagues and things like that, and we'd all get fun at doing that, and he'd love all that sort of stuff. He was just a normal bloke most of the time, but when he turned like, and when his football head was on it, he was different class.
Besides Ferguson, Wayne Rooney was probably perhaps the biggest character in that dressing room. He's been honest, I think, in some interviews that he didn't agree with everything Ferguson did. How did you see their relationship change through the years?
Yeah, you watched it change. Wayne pushed boundaries at times that he probably shouldn't have done, and he probably looks back and think, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know, Wayne would be at times too vocal towards his manager, if I'm honest, and I think he will agree with that. And it did turn a little bit sour, the pair of them. I'm pretty sure they've reconciled and they're fine now. But there was a point where, I don't think they could stand the sight of each other. I really don't. But they let bygones be bygones, and they're okay now. They've spoke since many a time, and I think Wayne speaks to him for advice, and Sir Alex occasionally checks in with him. But Sir Alex will know he gave him some unbelievable years.
Mm-hmm. How was Wayne in that dressing room with Rio and?
Wayne was the focal point of it all, you know, especially as the class of '92 started to leave. You know, we were left with only Gary Neville in the end. You'd lost, you know, Giggsy was there as well for a while, but you'd lost like the Neville, Phil Neville, Butty had gone, and sort of Scholes, who was never loud anyway, he was just a quiet assassin, you know. Wayne was always like the main guy in the dressing room, always a big prankster. When he was angry, everyone knew about it. When he was happy, everyone knew about it. But he was always talking, always loud, always in your face, and fun most of the time.
We've seen the video of the KO with
Phil
Bardsley.
Yeah.
Was that just one of many things that, and this video that the world got to see, and there's that was something Rooney would do on a regular basis with his mates?
I mean, I played tennis with Phil Bardsley 4 hours ago. I'm not gonna lie.
He didn't punch you, no?
No.
Okay,
He does get aggressive, Phil. Still, though. You can't take the Salford lad out of him. So, you know, listen, lads have nights out. You do, I do, we all do. Especially when you're, 20 odd and you're on millions and millions of pounds. You can do whatever you want and go wherever you want and drink what you want. And that's what would happen. They just have a drink and then they go back to an house and things happen. And things always happened over the years. Just occasionally it would get out. If that one was nothing, what people don't see is as soon as the video stops, it literally hits the deck. He bounced straight back up again. It looked like he was knocked out, but he bounced straight back up again. He was fine. But it was poor from one of Phil's friends to allow that to get out into public domain. But it does give the public an eye on what reality actually is, and these are just normal people that do normal things. They're just in the public eye, so they have to limit it as much as they can.
His celebration, though,
brilliant, wasn't it? Was that the next day?
I think
the
so.
Next game. It was the next game. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, he didn't tell anyone who was doing it either. He just did it.
So you didn't know about it?
No. Didn't tell anyone who was doing it. Just did it.
He was rumoured and allegedly open to moves to Man City, and there was even rumours about Chelsea on a later occasion. What can you tell us about those things?
I think there was definitely something in the City one. But again, Wayne didn't say too much. In my head, I knowing Wayne and knowing how him and his agent work, it wouldn't have surprised me. It was just a ruse to basically get a better contract from Man United. I don't think he could have ever gone to Man City from Man United. It'd have been criminal if he did, especially after everything he'd done at the club. But listen, he worked. He stayed at Man United for years, and he did his what's it called? He had a testimonial there, and it's all history in it. He never went, and that's all we care as Man United fans.
How was your relationship? Because from the outside, it seemed like you two got pretty close while we both were there. Yeah,
well, we were close because we knew each other before he came to Man United through the England setup, and we just sparked. We just did we'd argue, but we were close. He confided in me with a lot of things. I'd confide in him, and we were known to be close. We still are. We still speak a lot, but obviously he's out in America now, and I'm not. But we had great times together. We'd spend a lot of time with each other. I probably spent more time with him than he did with his wife.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, we're together 10 months a year with the club teams, and then the other month with the national team, and we were always together. So sometimes too much. I had to say to him, get out of my room and just leave me alone for half an hour and just let me have a rest from you.
Yeah.
Because he is non-stop. Well, he's calmed down as he's got older, but when he was young, bloody hell, he was non-stop.
Yeah. I started with what was your lowest point during your time at the club? Tell me about the highest.
Okay. Highest point, I mean, wow. Champions League final was 2008 was a high point. You know, winning many league titles, many nights winning league titles, you just don't forget them, do you? Just when that call goes out, like we've won the league and let's meet up and let's just go and have a drink somewhere, and you just go out and celebrate, knowing that you can and you've won. It's just they're just a brilliant night. It could be a Monday night, it could be a Tuesday night, off the cuff, just go and drink till 7-8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
honestly. But you remember some, like even like after winning the Europa League, we had a great day the next day in Manchester, and it wasn't everyone, it was only a select few players and a couple of staff, like, but just great times. You can't replicate it. It's like we always used to say, celebrate everything you win like it's the last time, because you just don't know what's around the corner. Look, we haven't won the league in 10 years. We haven't won the league in 10 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so many high points. I mean, I had some high points under Jose. Yeah. I loved working for Jose, but because he would literally pull you aside and have a private chat about football with you and want your opinions on things, like, and I'm just a masseur.
Do you have an example of one of those conversations?
Hang on. Can we pause while I have a think? Oh God.
Just speak and we'll edit it out, we promise.
You can trust us, Rod.
I can't trust you on this one, because this could be massive for you, this one. Let me think.
We'll get all our listeners to promise they won't tell anyone.
Okay, I'll give you one, right? Quite big at this, actually. I'm not going to name the player, but Jose pulls me aside early on in the season, and he said, I made a mistake, Rod. And it's just me and him walking on the training pitch while the training's going on, and it's just me and him walking away. He said, I made a mistake. I went, what, boss? He said, I should never have signed him, about this player. And I said, are you not seeing what I see every day in training? I said, I think he's top draw. I said, maybe he's small and maybe he's not as fast as a lot of players, but this guy, I think you can benefit from playing him. Like, and he said, I don't see it. I said, I think you're wrong on this one, boss. Anyway, he said, you really think so? I said, yeah. He said, okay. He said, I'm going to play him the next few games, see how he gets on. And he literally played him for like 5 or 6 games, right? And he scored in the Champions League. He scored in the league. He did really, assisted a couple of chances, assisted a couple of goals. He did really well, and then he got injured, and then he didn't really ever recover from that injury. But the fact that Jose could see that I saw something in the player and ran with it, I was like, oh my God, this guy. And I loved Jose. I absolutely loved him for a long, long time. He was brilliant. There was a lot of people that didn't like him, but I just knew what he wanted out of people. And he just wanted to test everyone around him all the time, and he wanted people to give opinions. And sometimes, you know what, I'd give an opinion and he'd shoot me down and go, oh, you shit, like, you're rubbish, you don't know what you're talking about. But other times he would listen, like this occasion. And to be fair to him, he pulled me a few days later and just went, you know what, you were right. And a few weeks later he said, you were right, he's doing really well for me, you were right. But I think people in life need that around them, a second opinion that they're maybe not getting because the people that are really close to him are just yes men. Yeah. And I'm not saying that all of Jose's people around him were yes men, but you know, that does happen in football. You find a lot of managers, a lot of players are surrounded by yes men that just give them what they want to hear all the time.
How did it feel when Jose Mourinho put that kind of trust in you?
I've said it before to many people. Jose made me feel better than Sir Alex ever did. Yeah. And Jose was brilliant with me. And because he tested you, and but then he showed he had trust in you.
Yeah.
And Sir Alex, as much as I love Sir Alex, he never really had that sort of relationship with me.
No.
Whereas Jose, he could talk with me one-on-one, and we could discuss things one-on-one, whether it was about football, whether it was about life, whether it was about women. You know, it didn't really matter. You could have the chat with Jose properly, and he was good like that. I enjoyed my time under Jose.
Is he misunderstood? His reputation is questionable.
Listen, the whole world can see that Jose is a little bit petulant. You know, he can be petulant, and that's who he is. But for me, he just likes to test every single person around him. He does. He likes to test everyone, and if he's bordering on bullying, really. But if you show you've got some sort of bite about you, some sort of backbone, some sort of fight, some sort of Jose, he what's the word I'm looking for? I don't say he loves that in you, but like he appreciates you more, you know, and your honesty, and you've got a bit of integrity about you, and I think he is. He goes about some of his things the wrong way. And he probably knows that as well, but he's a fantastic manager and has been for years for the reason he wins medals, he wins trophies. I'll give you one on Jose. He left the club, and towards the end of his reign, we kind of fell out because I disagreed with the way that he was doing things, and I just wanted to try and promote a bit of positivity in the dressing room when it was so flat and so negative, and it really was. It was a terrible dressing room to work in. Everyone was mopey. He was just he was a miserable sod, and he acted like he just didn't want to be there, and we all had to just put up with that, you know. And he would bark his orders out and, you know, curse and swear and insult people, and that's what Jose does. So I went the other way, and I was like, well, I'm trying to promote a bit of fun and have a bit of games in and around the medical area and stuff like that, and he didn't like that, so he kind of fell out on me in the end. But 6 months after, and I've now left the club, he's now left the club, we reached out to each other, and I reached out to him first, I'll be honest, and we talked over text, and then he actually asked me, where did I go wrong at Man United? Yeah. And I gave him... at both barrels, I gave him my honesty, like, and everything, what I thought he did wrong at Man United, and all he did was just thank me for being totally honest with me, and said to me, actually, I knew I could always rely on your honesty with me.
Was his negativity one of the key words why it went wrong?
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, he
And how much did Paul Pogba play into that?
Big, because they didn't get on. Paul didn't help himself. Jose didn't help himself. So you got two characters there that are very, very, very high profile. Both wanted to be number one. And obviously Paul was forever injured and not playing games. And that was frustrating for Jose. He doesn't like players like that anyway. And Jose just wanted his team to be big, strong athletes who would never get injured and work. And he didn't really care much for this social media side of it all, you know. And even though he has his own social media, like, he didn't really care much for the promoting the lads themselves. And that was just loggerheads that they just didn't like each other. Simple as that. There was a distinct dislike. But I know Jose, and I know that I think if he met Paul Pogba separately now, I think they'd get on and they'd square it all up. I think in a football environment, Jose finds it very easy to completely dismiss people and fall out with people. But outside of it, I think he's a good bloke.
Did he fell out with many of his players?
No, it didn't really fall out with him. He'd be negative towards some. He'd be negative towards some, and those lads would really struggle to deal with that. But he didn't fall out with many. He did fall out with Paul. Yeah, definitely fell out with Paul. Yeah. But
how did you see the treatment of Luke Shaw?
Poor. But I'll tell you a story of Luke Shaw. I knew we were going to get to Luke in the end. I remember one day he came into the training ground, and Jose walks in the dressing room, and in front of everyone, he just went, No, actually, let me in a not nice way, just said, "You were poor yesterday," and walked out and left it at that. So I remember Luke's head had gone, and I know Luke quite well. I'm quite close with Luke, and I said to Luke soon after that, and I said, "Listen, he's looking for a reaction in you." I said, "Next time he says something to you, bite back, say something back, and see how you get on after that." And I remember he did it again a few weeks later, and Luke snapped back. And I tell you, Josie never had a go at him again. And I still speak to Luke about that. Josie never said anything to him again.
So he kind of liked that reaction.
He wanted that reaction. Yeah. That's what he promotes it.
Yeah.
If you've got a bit of spine about you, he likes that in you, and that's what makes him different as a manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember giving Luke that advice, and he did. He bit back, and that's what I'm talking. When we went back to the start of the whole podcast, and you asked me the sort of influence and things. That's the sort of things that I learned over the years with different managers and different people, and that I could give that advice to Luke at the time, and he ran with it and used it. That's when I'm talking about having an influence in Man United's dressing room.
We've spoken about Sir Alex Ferguson, Jose Mourinho, Wayne Rooney, Luke Shaw. From all the people you met along the way, who made the most impression, or the best, or had the most influence on you personally?
Influence. Ooh. I mean, you'll never forget Roy Keane. Roy Keane's sort of anger and animosity towards, like, being the best at what you are. You always remember that, and you kind of tried to pass that on as much as you could once he'd left. And the tough thing was with that, you know, the once Roy had left, and that sort of the class of '92 was sort of leaving towards the end of 2000, then you realise that social media was actually a big thing, but we were still sort of stuck in the old days that it wasn't. And when you looked at social media, it was like, what's he doing on social media, the idiot? You know what I mean? And you were trying to sort of like stop the lads from putting out the whole lives on social media, but then actually, that's what they do nowadays. That's sort of that. But so that was a problem, the social media side of it all. But just Roy Keane was a big influence. Who else was a big? I mean, Gary Neville was a big influence because he was such a stickler for making sure the team were looked after properly and did the right thing. And people have Gary Neville down as a selfish person, but he wasn't. He was very, very generous and very what's the word I'm looking for? Team orientated. A lot of young players would come to Gary Neville and without agents and say, the club have offered me this, what do you reckon? And Gary would go, oh, they're taking the piss, like I'll sort that out, I'll go and speak to the manager, and act as agent on behalf of the player. And he would really look after players that way. So that was the early days, those two really. Obviously Wayne had a big influence in everything because we were so close.
What about Beckham?
So Beck's not so much. Obviously, Beck's was the first proper megastar I ever come into contact with because he was a megastar. But he was very quiet in the dressing room. Was never really aggressive. Never really the biggest joker. He would just like laugh at what was going on, and you know, Beck's was just a lovely lad. Really was just a lovely lad. Nothing. You know, he went through the stage of being unhappy. Because it's crazy to think about it, but they get to this mega fame and loads of money, but they can't do anything with their lives. They can't do anything. I remember one. I'm not going to name the player, but I remember one player turned to me one day and just said, and this is a mega star, he just said, if I could just buy an island and move my family onto it and never see anyone ever again, I would do, because I'm just absolutely sick of it. Now, it's sad that someone who's representing Man United steps on that pitch every single week, just wants to just disappear from life so no one ever sees him. But that's how it does get some of him. Yeah. I see it in Marcus Rashford now. I see it in the way he's going. The change in his attitude, the change in his personality. And it's not nice, but it's how they deal with this mega fame, because it is mega fame. Because some of them are fine, some of them can just get on with life. You know, they aren't mega famous. So let's talk about, you know, the Paul Scholes, you know, the Wes Browns, the John O'Sheas that can just go under the radar and do their things, you know. Whereas the Rooneys, the Beckhams, they can't do that. They can't just get out and live a normal life, and it gets to him. It really does get to him.
You mentioned Marcus. Are there any reasons to be worried for him, for the fans?
No, I mean, listen, Marcus is Marcus. We all know his ability, but we all see the ups and downs in his career.
Yeah.
We all can see it. We're not stupid. We can all see that it can go through patches of, and I'm not saying 2-3 weeks. We're saying months and months of poor decisions, poor play, but then it can go the opposite way. Months and months of just being an absolute brilliant player, goal scoring machine. But there's got to be something in there that sparks each of them. So that's the upward and the downward spiral. So that's what I see. Marcus is now, 25, 26? I'm not sure how old he is, Marcus, now.
I'm not sure.
But what I'm saying is he's got to get to some point in his career where he's got to be consistent.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt in his ability.
No.
There's no doubt in his ability. It's just whether he can be every single week on it, scoring goals, not being upset with people around him, not being annoyed with people around him, not making a run and the ball not coming and throwing his arms up in the air, just keep doing and doing and doing and realising that's his job and just to get on with it and score goals.
Yeah. You remember his breakthrough?
I'll tell you, I remember with Marcus, I was by the side of the pitch, it was under Van Gaal. I was stood next to Giggsy because Giggsy was the assistant, one of his coaches. So I stood next to Giggsy, and Marcus had been drafted in from the youth team just to join in training. And he's picked up the ball inside right, and he's ran at 3 players. One of them was Daley Blind. I can't remember the other 2, but 2 of them out of the 3 were international footballers. And he's gone bump through 3 of them, so quick. And put this unbelievable crossing that I think Memphis scored off.
Yeah.
Right? And I've just turned and looked at Giggsy, and I've gone, wow. And Giggsy's looked at me and gone, fucking hell. And I've gone, game in the team, right? And it was just one of those things that you just never ever forget. And then by chance he ends up starting a game that he shouldn't have started, scores 2.
Yeah.
Midtjylland, was it?
Yeah.
Midtjylland.
Yeah.
And then starts again at weekend against Arsenal and scores another 2.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
But going off that though, you remember that? I remember that Marcus. Yeah. He was a happy, lovely kid, just absolutely buzzing to be about the place, just lovely.
Yeah.
I watched that go out of him. I would literally watch that go out of him, and every now and again it'd be there, but it was never as consistent, and that is what changes in the players.
Yeah.
And is that because of the pressure?
It's massive pressure, the intense pressure, and scrutiny. Every single thing you do is watched and analysed, on the pitch, off the pitch. It doesn't matter what you do.
Do you have kind of one player that his abilities was world class, but he couldn't cope with the pressure?
I think we have him now at the club.
Yeah. Who is he?
Anthony Martial.
Yeah.
I think some of the things I did see him do on the training pitch, best I've ever seen a player do, ever. England, United, my own stuff, best things I've ever seen him do. I just don't think he's got it up here to convert it into full-time football, because the pressures, I don't know if it's a pressure, but the injuries build up. It's constantly something new. I think, knowing, because I did work with him, it's not as if he's one of those players that I think he needs to be 100% fit to play for Man United. Whereas I'll use Ryan Giggs as a prime example. I don't think Ryan Giggs was 100% fit for the last 23 years of his career. No. I think he always had something wrong with him, but he just played. Yeah. And that is a mental thing.
Yeah, because the fans seem to think that he doesn't care. What do you think it's down to?
I want to say he does care, but I just don't know. I just don't know what goes on up there to for him to stop constantly and sit on the treatment bed. There can't be that many problems with him, but there seems to be. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the last 5 years. I've not been there, but even when I was there, it was the same. There was always something niggling away at him.
Yeah.
It's as if he's constantly thinking, I've got something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But if I'm telling you, there's some of the things I used to see him do. If he could just put a season together, you'd see he could be one of the best.
Yeah.
He was brilliant on the training pitch.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are from Norway. My biggest idol while growing up was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You worked there while he was a player.
I did.
Yeah. How was your relationship?
Fine. Me and Ollie got on really well. Yeah. He was I worked with him. So I used to treat him all the time when he was a player. But then he came back as the reserve team manager. So I used to chat and we used to have a five-a-side on a Friday afternoon and always play. He was always the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
His finishing was a joke. But by that time, his knees were shot at as well.
Yeah.
But a lovely guy. Yeah. A really, honestly, a lovely, lovely guy. I don't think I know anyone who could say anything bad about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Unfortunate in his managerial role at the club. Should go on to manage big clubs again. When that's going to happen, I don't know. But I mean, people forget he put records together as Man United's manager. You know, consecutive wins and that sort of home. Was it home wins? Was it? Or was it wins? Or undefeated for X amount of games? And
wasn't that away games? I think.
Was it undefeated away? I
think
can't
so.
remember. But he did. He did unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he leaves the club because players come in and think they're bigger than him or don't want him there, and it's unfortunate and unfair, but that's football.
Yeah,
that's football. But a great bloke, Ole Gunnar.
I've seen some videos of you scoring goals. I've also heard that you were a goal scorer while playing for Altrincham. Who was the best finisher of the two of you?
Me and Ollie?
Yeah.
God, Jesus Christ, Ole Gunnar. Ole Gunnar's one of the greatest finishers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I've seen some fantastic finishes. Ruud van Nistelrooy was an unbelievable finisher. Ole Gunnar, an unbelievable finisher. This is going to sound stupid, right? But Man United have got in their youth team coaching setup a guy called Colin Little, who played for Crewe.
Okay.
And he played with me at Altrincham as well.
Yeah.
And honestly, as finishing goals, there's none better. He was unbelievable, an unbelievable finisher. Didn't have the best attitude, but a brilliant finisher. In fact, I think Marcus does one-on-one coaching with him every now and again.
Okay.
To improve his finishing, because he was such a good finisher.
Yeah.
And didn't Solskjaer speak about Luke Shaw as a quite good finisher?
Luke is a good finisher. Good free kick taker as well, Luke. Yeah. Luke just needs a rocket up his backside every now and again. But I think he's improved the last year especially.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to sign left-backs anymore just to keep him going, you know. So that's a good thing. I thought Luke might have been a chance of captain, because he's a big influence in that dressing room, Luke. He's a loud person in the dressing room. He's got a lot of people's ears, and he's been there a long time. In fact, I think I might be right in saying he's the only player left from my time there now.
Yeah, with that.
Right, yeah.
Maybe McTominay as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Luke's that's 5 years. So the whole dressing room's completely changed in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Can we do a improvised quick fire round?
Yeah, of course.
Is that okay?
Of course you can.
Because you've seen your share of training sessions at Carrington.
Yeah.
So best finisher,
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
best dribbler,
Anthony Martial.
best header,
Best header of a ball. Chicharito.
Really?
Was unbelievable in the air, yeah.
Okay, I probably know the answer, but the worst tackler.
The worst tackler. I mean, everyone's going to say Scholesy on this, aren't they?
Yeah.
But Scholesy wasn't a bad tackler, actually. He just liked to leave one on people, didn't he, Scholesy? That's all. And he used to do it in training as well. Worst tackler? I mean, I've seen Wayne throw some horrendous tackles in.
Yeah.
Oh, if you upset him in training, he'd try and break your leg. Yeah. I remember once, and it's supposed to be quick fire this I know, but Thomas Cusack had annoyed him in training, and someone had put him in a 50-50 with Thomas, Wayne and Thomas, and Wayne just went straight over the top of the ball, knee high. Both dived in each other, knee high, all the way up his leg. Like, it was a shocking challenge. It was a double red. But that's training.
Yeah.
That was training. You know what I mean? But that was way back in his lunatic days.
Funniest guy.
Oh, there's some good ones in there. Anderson was funny.
Although we didn't speak very well English.
But that's what made him funny. Yeah, that's what. But he was funny. He was a character. Eric Jemba was funny, and he was a character. I'm trying to think of the characters who were funny. So there's different types of funny. Like you can include like Seba Veron, Juan Sebastian Veron, or Marcos Rojo. They were funny because they were top-end lunatics, but they were funny because of that, you know.
Nicky Butt.
But it was hilarious. Especially things he used to get up to with Phil Neville. He used to bully Phil Neville, and he was so funny with it. Great lad.
Who's the most professional?
Oh, there's many professional players. Bloody hell.
Apart from Cristiano.
Yeah, Ronnie was professional.
Neville. Gary.
Gary had to be, because Gary wasn't blessed with the talent that a lot of the players were, but Gary worked his nuts off to be the best he could be, and in the end was the best right back in the country for best part of 10-15 years. But he was very professional. Who else was professional? Giggsy was professional. Surprisingly, but Giggsy would do everything he could to make himself last as long as he could in the game. So Giggsy was dead professional. I'm trying to think who else. God, it's hard when you got all these players going through your head. Chichi was professional. Chicharito was very professional.
Yeah.
We have this big character I think we'd like a label on, and that's Ibrahimovic. What award will he give him?
He was a big bully. In
a good way, or?
Okay, so what I think... the way I think it worked was, I think that Jose turned to Ibra and said, I want you to come in, but I want you to test these lads. I want you to test them. And he did. He came in and he would tell players they were shit. He would tell players they were useless, they were rubbish, and anyone squared up to him or wanted to, he would easily fight anyone, you know. But he was entertaining, and again, like Jose, if you answered him back, he had a little bit of respect for you. So he'd bully a few staff and he'd bully a few playing staff, and I'd always answer back to him and have a bit of banter with him, and he wouldn't bully me, he would just have the laugh with me, but he would be a bit of a bully with people. But there was no doubt he was a talent. But he was right at the end of his career when he got to us. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Ibra. He was fun to have around.
You mentioned the word fight. Have you seen any bust-ups on the training ground?
So best fighter.
Yeah. Or the worst bust-up?
I remember seeing one with Anderson and Vida.
Okay.
Anderson and Vida had a bust-up off the training pitch. That was.
I'd pay to see that.
Yeah. What happened?
I'll tell you what. The winner wasn't who you'd think it would be. I'll say they won the winner. People got in the middle of it all. But yeah, you'd all expect Vida to have absolutely annihilated him, but that wasn't the case. Yeah. So it was funny because I remember there was a physio at the time, stood in between him and had him like that, his hands out.
Yeah.
Any chance someone give us an hand here or what? And it was so funny because he just was trying to hold him off on his own. We was all that happy to watch. But no, yeah, that was one. That was a good one. But a lot of the time, things did go on the training pitch, but as soon as you stepped off it, it was done and finished with. Yeah.
Is that also kind of a healthy sign that the competition on the training ground and the camaraderie is so good that you could have a bust up without it being dramatic?
Yeah. I mean, it was you couldn't afford to have a dressing room with fractions in it, and you know, and people not liking each other. Although it does happen, you needed to promote camaraderie as much as you could and togetherness as much as you could. So it was very, very rare that anything actually did spill out and occur.
Back to Ole Solskjaer.
Yes.
Because he had a lot of injuries. Did you ever work together on the road to recovery? And did you see how the injuries infected him?
Yeah, but so the problem with Ole it was inside the knee. I remember having a problem inside the knee, and he was trying to regrow cells in the knee, and it was all new technology at the time, and it failed. And it was one of those things where, for me as a soft tissue therapist doing my work, it was very, very difficult for me to affect something so deep inside the knee. So I always worked with Ollie. I always worked with him all the time, but he was just very unfortunate with his knee problems.
Did he work hard?
Yeah. He tried everything.
How did the injuries affect him?
Listen, when you have the injuries that he had, and I'm thinking back 20 years now, so I'm trying to remember what went on and that. But I do remember Ollie having good days and bad days where it would get him down. No one's going to have the injuries he's had and come in smiling every single day. But he worked and worked and worked and gave everything every possible chance. I remember it. And you know what you say about Ollie, but Ronnie Johnson was the same, because he had his fair share of problems as well. Yeah. And they both worked and worked and worked to do everything they possibly could to be available for Sir Alex and that team.
You had this quick fire questions for him about pranksters. I think you were one as well. Did you ever prank Ollie?
I did prank Ollie once. Yeah. So what I used to do was when lads would come in with different types of clothes, I would always, I don't know, fashion something out of him, like make something. But Ollie came in these boots one day, and they were like bloody snow boots or something, but I don't know what they were. So I just while we were out training, I cut up a big cardboard box and attached some makeshift skis to the bottom of them because it looked like ski boots. But just things like that, nothing major. You'd hang lads' clothes if they had terrible clothes. You'd hang them up just so everyone could see them. Bad shoes, you'd do things with them.
What did you do with his shoes?
I remember someone like, what player was it? One lad come in one day with these like boots, but they looked like 1930s football boots. They were brown and leather and just horrible. So I just got a load of blue tack and stuck studs to the bottom of them and just hung them up like these terrible studded boots from like 80 years ago. Just things like that. Did
the players damage Park's cars?
Did they what? Damage?
Jisung Park's cars, because he brought Asian cars into the training ground and then they would break the mirrors.
Not that I know of, no. Okay. No, I never heard that one, no. Not at all. In fact, in all the time I was there, I never heard of anyone damage anyone's car on purpose. No.
Good.
Yeah.
I think we're about to run out of time, Rod, but do you have any more questions left, Eivind?
I don't think so.
Do you want to finish off with a story, or do you have anything to add, Rod?
No.
I'm putting pressure on here, sorry.
No, I know. Story-wise, no. Listen, we're about to go into a new season. I want to just win it.
Yeah.
I want to catch City up and just want to win this league again. Yeah. Because it's been too long. 10 years is far too long for us.
How crazy will it be in these streets when United win the Premier League again?
Well, we do it every single time we compare, City's victory parade compared to Man United's victory parade, and it's chalk and cheese. Like they're literally hanging out the windows, hanging off scaffolding. They're everywhere when Man United win the league, and it's not the same as City. I mean, fair play to City, they've done what they've done, but it's just not the same. There's millions coming to Manchester when Man United win the league. There's a story then. So the last time we won the league, I think it was last time, we started off at the cathedral down here, and we went straight down Deansgate, and we're on the bus, and it's raining, typical raining in May. And the lads are all looking round, and the streets are absolutely full. And we've got speakers off the side of the bus. And they're like, someone start the songs off. So we're all looking round. Rod will do it. So they gave me the mic. So I'm on Deansgate with the mic, with like hundreds of thousands of fans. And I'm just going, who put the ball in the Germans' net? And you could just hear the whole street singing it and all the buses singing it. And then it's just song after song after song. And then once the lads got a bit confident because they've seen everyone else is singing, then everyone grabs the mic off me and they're going on. But they always used me to start everything off in the past.
That's a fantastic way
Those are things you never forget.
Yeah.
And it's been 10 difficult years, and the relationship between the club and the fans is a bit tense.
Mm-hmm.
But being a part of that dressing room, can you try to put into words how important the fans are to the players?
Listen, the players know that the fans are there to be entertained. The club would not be what it is if it wasn't for the massive fan base it has. It proves it every single summer when they disappear all over the world, and there's just fan after fan after fan everywhere they go. You know, if you go to the Far East and Man United, the amount of times we pulled up at hotels, and I'm not lying here when I'm saying there'd be at least 10, 15, 20,000 fans outside the hotel and stay there waiting for you to come out again. China, same. Thailand, Japan, just fan after fan after fan, just crazy all over the world. And you know, it happens in America, happens in Australia, happens in Oslo, of course.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just a huge fan base. It's rivaled by probably only Real Madrid, Barcelona, and maybe Liverpool across the world. You know, and the lads respect and understand that the fan base makes the club, and they want to win for themselves, but they want to win for the manager and they want to win for the fans as well. And they know that it's time we need to win the league again. They know that.
Do you think it will happen with Ten Hag?
I hope so. I saw an improvement last year. I like his. I do like Mason Mount. I think he's a great signing. I like his signings generally. They're all improving the team. From what I can gather, Casemiro is an absolute born winner in that dressing room and a fantastic guy in the dressing room. Mason Mount, a lovely guy. Bruno Fernandes, now hopefully we'll see a different side of Bruno Fernandes being the captain. Hopefully will the theatrics disappear from him a little bit and he becomes more of a leader and more of a what's the word I'm looking for? Someone to look up to for the players.
Model.
A role model.
Yeah.
We have a someone behind him in Lisandro Martinez who is very, very intense by all accounts, but a top player and a born winner. We just need that goal scorer. Now, if we've just signed him, we don't know yet. But if Højlund's the answer, happy days. By all accounts, what I can gather, he is similar sort of ilk to Haaland. Very fast, very powerful. Touch, we don't know properly yet. He's very raw from what I can gather, but we need someone who can score goals. Because Marcus, as good as he is, isn't that answer. And we need an out-and-out goal scorer to win this league, and we haven't got it yet.
You have worked with a lot of injuries, and based on what you have read about the back injury to Rasmus Højlund, are you worried?
No.
You think he'll be fine?
Marcus is probably worse 2 years ago.
Okay.
And he's fine.
Nothing to worry about, you think?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Okay. Perfect.
They know what they're doing at Old Trafford. They know what they're doing. I think the lads at Cannington will sort him out.
I think that's a good way to finish it off, Rod.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks a lot. Well done.
No problem.